Today I thought I would make a video on the top 5 mistakes I see in the deadlift. Now I've seen a lot of deadlifts, I've also been critiquing a lot of deadlifts online. So I've come up with the top 5 mistakes that I see. I can copy and paste basically 90% of what I write to people. So with that in mind, let's go through the top 5. Number 1 is what you're wearing on your feet. Now, 9 times out of 10 I see people lifting in running shoes. Now, there is nothing wrong with that per se, but if you are interested in genuinely lifting better and more efficiently, get out of those running shoes. Sometimes gyms get a little bit funny if you're barefoot, but that would be my number 1 suggestion, is to go barefoot. If for whatever reason your gym doesn't like you working out barefoot, then the next best suggestion is looking at wearing shoes that are very thin soled, that have very little space between you and the floor. That way the energy that you put into picking up the weight can be transferred into the floor easier, which means the floor can transfer the energy back into your feet easier, making the weight lift more efficiently. So this all goes back to Newton's third law. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Bit of GCSE science there for you. So shoes that I tend to recommend, skating shoes, they tend to have a very flat sole. They're a bit thick for my liking. Similar to Converse shoes, they are flat but a bit thick soled. So I personally deadlift in boxing shoes. They have barely any sole between myself and the floor. So they're a very good option if you can't lift barefoot. There are such things as deadlift slippers as well. They are better suited for those who lift conventionally. Number 2, I often see people set up quite well and then all of a sudden the bar just drifts away as they start to pick it up, or it drags up their shins and then it drifts away from their thighs. Basically, at any point the bar drifts away from you in a deadlift, it's going to be heavier than what it truly is. Keep the bar on your shins, keep the bar on your thighs. Don't let it drift away. It'll just be easier. Number 3, never bracing properly. Learn to brace before you lift heavy, before you do any spine-loaded movements. This should be almost the number 1 thing you learn when you step in the gym and look to lift heavy. So, learn to brace. I've got videos on it, I'm not going to go through it today. Number 4, not pulling the slack out of the bar. This is definitely, obviously this video is directed towards novice lifters. Some individuals can do what's called to dip, grip and rip, and literally just come down to the bar and pick it up. That's great, but that's generally speaking for the more experienced lifter. If you're new to lifting, I suggest you pull the slack out of the bar and you really concentrate on how to do that. Watch my demonstration. Not pulling the slack out of the bar can tie into a few things. Normally speaking, it's number 1, you haven't learned how to brace. That's probably the more common reason as to why you haven't pulled the slack out of the bar. Number 2, perhaps you are just rushing to get the bar off the floor, so don't rush the setup. And number 3, the reason you're probably doing it is because you're not tight through your upper back and you haven't learned to depress your shoulder blades and engage your lats. And it will probably tie into another few common mistakes that I see that I've listed in terms of the bar drifting away. So this is quite a big one in terms of not pulling the slack out of the bar. It can tie into a few other common points that I see. And then number 5, make sure you lock your knees and your hips at the top. So at the top of lots of deadlifts I see, the knees stay soft, the hips lock, and there's this kind of lean back to say, hey, I've locked out, but the knees are staying soft. Just make sure you lock your knees out. You're going to be more balanced and you've essentially finished the rep. There's no pros that I see in terms of keeping your knees soft. I don't see the point in it. If I'm looking at a squat, for example, and someone's keeping soft knees throughout their squats, you know, even at the top they're keeping soft knees, That might be a bit of a bodybuilder thing, and they're keeping time under tension, and that's what their training variable is looking towards, then fine, but that's a different subject, that's a different lift. In the deadlift, I don't see the point in having soft knees at the top, so make sure your knees are locked. Thanks for watching. I hope these 5 common mistakes help you if you are making them.